Welcome back, everybody. These are the best horror films of the year 1997. We're going to cover all the horror films that were released worldwide, movie theaters, cable TV, made-for-TV movies, drive-ins, movie theaters, everywhere that scared audiences worldwide. Alright, so let's check out the entire list of all the horror movies that were released in 1997. We got some good ones, some you may remember fondly, others you may choose to forget, and others you never heard of. So let's check them out, alright? Thanks for joining me, and here are the best horror films of 1997. "99.9", Lara, host of radio call show dealing in psychic phenomena, discovers her estranged lover has been found dead in a small Spanish village. Horror, mystery, and thriller. 99.9. Aberration. Mutant lizards attack a woman on the run hiding out in a cabin in the woods. Mutant lizards. Horror and sci-fi. Now this movie is good, a lot of jump scares, but if you like reptiles, you'll love it. Adrenaline. Fear the rush. A bioweapon leak in Eastern Europe and spreads west. It mutates in a quarantine area, creating a killer monster. Action, sci-fi, and thriller. Adrenaline. Fear the rush. Alien Resurrection. 2 centuries after her death, a powerful human-alien hybrid clone of Ellen Ripley aids a crew of space pirates in stopping the aliens from reaching Earth. Alien Resurrection. An American Vampire Story. A group of friends go on vacation with some new friends that turn out to be vampires. They hire a famous vampire killer to help them. Comedy and horror. Anaconda. A National Geographic film crew is taken hostage by an insane hunter who forces them along on his quest to capture the world's largest and deadliest snake. Anaconda. This movie is good with Jennifer Lopez. Apartheid slave women's justice. After a slave uprising, 10 black mistresses of a white landowner decide to capture their master after he refuses to turn over his ill-gained wealth. Drama horror. Attack of the Killer Manatee. Teens on a camping trip find the old road to a boat ramp has been mysteriously removed. They trek through the woods until they find where the road picks up again, where they meet a giant manatee. Parody, comedy, and horror. Black Circle Boys. All-American Kyle is the newest initiate of the Black Circle Boys, an underworld society of gothic groupies whose primary interests are creating mayhem and studying the occult. Bleeders. A man travels to an island with his girlfriend in search of his relatives, but he finds maybe more than what he wanted to know. Bleeders. Horror. This movie is a scorcher. Hemoglobin. Bloodletting. A young woman fascinated with mass murderers tracks down the world's most famous uncaught serial killer and becomes his apprentice. Together they go on a killing spree. Comedy and horror. Bloodletting. Bugged. Exterminators unwittingly create monsters by spraying crickets with a genetic mutant agent. Bugged. Next up we have is Buried Alive 2. Inspired by what happened to Clint Goodman, the protagonist of the first film, an adulterous husband from Clint's small town plans to do the same things to his wife Laura. Buried Alive, psychological drama and horror. Campfire Tales. Teens entertain one another by telling an anthology famous urban legends with a modern twist, including Makeout Point, monsters, psychopaths, and ghosts. Cannibal Rollerblades, or Rollerbabes. All best buddies Scott and Chuck wanted was a quiet weekend of fishing at the remote summer cabin, but when Scott reels in a note bearing an ominous message, people eating people, their weekend in the sun takes dark turn. Perdita Durango, a psychotic criminal couple kidnaps a random teenage couple. Dark romance, tragic romance, action, and horror. Now this movie here is scary, really good. The Night Flyer. A reporter is on the trail of a vampire murderer who travels by plane. If you haven't seen it, I recommend The Night Flyer. It was scary. It was suspenseful and scary. Cube. A group of strangers awaken to find themselves placed in a giant cube. Each one of them is gifted with a special skill, and they must work together to escape an endless maze of deadly traps. Cube. Check out Cube. You'll love it. Cutting Moments. With her quaint suburban existence on the slow road to ruin, Sarah mutilates herself in the bathroom mirror while her husband sits down watching TV. Cutting Moments. Deadly Instincts. An alien travels to Earth on a meteorite and mates with humans to preserve its species and destroy humanity. I will destroy you. Horror and sci-fi. Deadly Instincts. The Devil's Advocate. An exceptionally adept Florida lawyer is offered a job at a high-end New York City law firm with a high-end boss. The biggest opportunity of his career to date. Legal thriller, drama, fantasy, mystery. DNA. A mad scientist's DNA experiment on the bones of a mysterious jungle creature brings a carnivorous beast to life, and only his former assistant can stop it. DNA. Down to Hell. The longtime entertainment of the company of scumbags is that they kidnap people and take them to the forest, where they release and begin to hunt them. Horror. Down to Hell. Dying to Meet You. Serial Killer Massacre. Ted is a depraved serial killer until he meets Leah. Then he becomes a real monster. Together the two of them go on a bloody, murder-happy rampage of unparalleled horror. Event Horizon. A rescue crew is tasked with investigating the mysterious reappearance of a spaceship that had been lost for 7 years. Event Horizon. Space sci-fi, horror sci-fi. Frightmares. A trilogy of horror stories from the director of Evil Night, Death Metal Zombie, and The Dummy. It was The Dummy. Remember Mannequin, the movie Mannequin? It was The Dummy. Michael Jackson, Ghosts. The music video that accompanied the remix opens with the scene of a woman relaxing on a futuristic sofa, watching the music video through metallic virtual reality goggles. Fantasy, horror, and music. Ghosts. Mystery Monsters. Tommy has just joined the cast of top-rated kids show Captain Mike's Mystery Monsters and is anxious to find out just how the special effects crew gets the monsters to work. Family, fantasy, horror, and sci-fi. Guns of El Chupacabra. Bloodthirsty monster from Mexico must be stopped by a rather unique law enforcement team. Guns of El Chupacabra. Looks pretty good. Hellinger. A fallen man of the cloth forever bound to the fires of hell by a pact made with Satan is unleashed to torment humankind. Horror. Hellinger. This movie is creepy. Hideous. Dr. Lorca, a collector of biological oddities, fights another curator of horrors over a mutant, but their clash is cut short when the mutant comes to life and resurrects an angry, oozing army. Hideous. House of Frankenstein. When strange murders stump Detective Coyle, he gets a break after his werewolf girlfriend is kidnapped by a vampire. House of Frankenstein. Action, horror, and sci-fi. Hybrid. After an apocalyptic alien attack on Earth, an ion storm hits the planet. A small team of male-female commandos take shelter in an abandoned research facility. However, something awaits them. I Know What You Did Last Summer. I love this movie. 4 young friends bound by a tragic accident are reunited when they find themselves being stalked by a hook-wielding maniac in their small seaside town. I Know What You Did Last Summer. I love it. Intensity. A woman spending Thanksgiving at the home of her friend's family in the rural Pacific Northwest finds herself in the clutches of a disturbed serial killer. Drama, horror, and thriller. So if you like Thanksgiving, Intensity. Intruder. A mainland Chinese girl is, with her husband, a wanted criminal, and they have to get to Hong Kong in order to stay alive and be free. Intruder. Everybody loves Jack Frost. Slasher horror, supernatural horror. After an accident that left murderer Jack Frost dead in genetic material, the vengeful killer returns as a murderous snowman to exact his revenge on the man who sent him to be executed. Jack Frost. Kiss the girls goodbye. Dawn accepts a ride from Carl, who drugs her and holds her prisoner. The perverted man then kidnaps her friend before going on a murderous rampage. Horror. Don't talk to strangers. Kokuri. Schoolgirls on the verge of adulthood know that boys can be feckless and girls treacherous. These friends gather around an Ouija board to call forth the spirit of Kokuri. Drama and horror ensues. Legends of the Mummy. Louis Gossett Jr. stars in this retelling of Bram Stoker's Jewel of the Seven Stars, in which an ages-old mummy is awakened and takes revenge on everyone in an old Gothic mansion. I love how they wake up and the mummy has to kill everybody. Lycanthropist, The Moonlight Murders. Valdemar Daninsky, a bestseller writer, is exhausted and needs help from Dr. Westerna, the daughter of the local coroner. Meanwhile, gruesome murders are happening. Mimic. I love this movie. 3 years ago, etymologist Dr. Susan Tyler genetically created an insect to kill cockroaches, carrying a virulent disease. Now the insects are out to destroy their only predator, mankind. Mommy's Day. The homicidal matriarch will let nothing stand in the way of a reunion with her daughter. Horror, mystery, and thriller. Mommy 2. Mommy's Day. I want my mommy. Night of the Demons 3. A group of delinquents accidentally shoot a police officer. To avoid arrest, they hide out in an abandoned house, unaware that it is haunted. I love it. Demons 3, Night of the Demons is good. Night Watch. A law student who takes a job as a night watchman at a morgue begins to discover clues that implicate him as the suspect of a series of murders. Night Watch. Featuring Ewan McGregor. Body horror psychological drama. An American Werewolf in Paris. An American man unwittingly gets involved with French werewolves who have developed a serum allowing them to transform at will. Body horror, dark comedy, werewolf horror. Perfect Blue. A pop singer gives up her career to become an actress, but she slowly goes insane when she starts being stalked by an obsessed fan and what seems to be a ghost of her past. Plaga Zombie. A group of people must fight for their lives when a bizarre epidemic starts a zombie invasion. Comedy and horror. Plaga Zombie, or the Zombie Plague, if you will. Primutos, the Fallen Angel. Primutos is the first of the fallen angels even before Lucifer. His goal is to rule the world, the living and the dead. Comedy and horror. Primutos, the Fallen Angel. Quicksilver Highway. Traveling showman Aaron Quicksilver tells horror tales. A psychotic hitchhiker falls prey to a relentless, dangerously sharp set of chattering teeth and a human hand that comes alive. The Relic. A homicide detective and an anthropologist try to destroy a South American lizard-like god who's on a people-eating rampage in a Chicago museum. The Relic. I love it. I love it. Schizophreniac. The Whore Mangler. Harry is an aggravated writer, killer, and drug addict scumbag who will stop at nothing to destroy those who stand between him and insanity. The Whore Mangler, so he mangles whores. Scream 2, we love Scream. 2 years after the first series of murders, as Sydney acclimates to college life, Someone donning the Ghostface costume begins a new string of killings. Courtney Cox, David Arquette, Jada Pinkett Smith, Omar Epps, Neve Campbell. Search for the Beast. Dr. Stone researches legends about a beast in Okaloosa wilderness, where campers vanished. He investigates disappearances possibly linked to a mythical creature. Shadow Zone. My teacher ate my homework. 13-year-old Jesse is a typical teenager who hates his teacher, Mrs. Fink. While visiting a vintage clothing shop, Jesse sees a doll that looks exactly like his dreaded teacher. Mayhem and murder ensues. Snow White, A Tale of Terror. And this dark tale on the fairy tale, the growing hatred of a noblewoman, secretly a practitioner of the dark arts, for her stepdaughter and the witch's horrifying attempts to kill her. Spawn. An elite mercenary is killed, but comes back from hell as a reluctant soldier of the devil. Superhero, action, crime, drama, and horror. Spawn. Featuring John Leguizamo and Martin Sheen. The Bloody Ape. The Bloody Ape is the most outrageous drive-in movie take on Poe's Murder in the Rue Morgue ever committed to film. Super Simeon Special Edition. Horror. 400 Pounds of Fury. The Haunted Sea. A ship with Aztec treasure is found adrift. Captain Ramsey's crew battles a creature guarding the cursed treasure as greed and paranoia spreads among them. The Haunted Sea. The Killing Jar. Michael Stanford and his wife move to his old town so he can take over the family business. However, gruesome murders of children start to happen. Drama, horror, mystery, and thriller. The Killing Jar. The Necrophiles. A cannibal rapist rises from the grave as a flesh-eating zombie sex maniac. 2 Seattle cops, a satanic cult, and a flying demon fetus try to stop the lust-crazed ghoul before he can kill again. Action, comedy, horror, and mystery and thriller. The Shining. A recovering alcoholic must wrestle with demons within and without when he and his family move into a haunted hotel as caretakers. This was a TV miniseries. The Ugly. A female psychologist wants to understand the minds of a confessed serial killer who spent the last 5 years in a mental hospital because of his state. Drama, horror, and thriller. The Ugly. The Creeps. It gives me the creeps. Mad scientists bring Dracula, the Wolfman, the Mummy, and Frankenstein's monster to life. But there's a problem as they end up 3 feet tall. So these are little midgets. I love it. I love it. The 18th Angel. Mythology and religious dogma are slowly revealed when an attractive young woman is approached by a modeling agency that pulls her into an underworld of priests that are not Christian but rather want to resurrect Satan. The 18th Angel. The Haunted Sea. I believe this is a repeat. A ship with Aztec treasure is found adrift. So basically there's a monster guarding the haunted treasure and then people start to die one by one. But it's a good movie. The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Based on the novel, a young gypsy becomes a minister's obsession in 1483. Only the bell ringer and her husband and the Court of Miracles can save her. The Hunchback of Notre Dame. The Corn Shucker. The Corn Shucker is a mythical creature who has lived simply and peacefully with nature. Horror. The Corn Shucker. I love the Corn Shucker. I love it. Horror. The Devil's Child. A young woman's mother wants her to bear Satan's child. Devil's Child. Drama, horror, and thriller. Next up we have is Disney's Tower of Terror. Comedy, family, horror, and thriller. A disgraced reporter investigates an abandoned luxury hotel where 5 people mysteriously disappeared 60 years earlier. Trucks. Drama, horror, sci-fi, and thriller. Aliens arrive parking in a geostationary orbit over Nevada. Using powers unknown to us, they declare war and use unmanned trucks as weapons. 2 orphan vampires. A pair of teenage girls who are blind by day, but when the sun goes down, they roam the streets to quench their thirst for blood. So they can walk around the sun, but they're just blind. Uncle Sam, Desert Storm vet who was killed in combat, rises from the grave on 4th of July to kill the unpatriotic citizens of his hometown after some teens burn an American flag over his burial site. American Sergeant. Vampire Journals. Avenging vampire stalks a king of the vampires in Eastern Europe. Slaughters anyone who gets in his way. Vampire Journals. Fantasy and horror. Wishmaster. A demonic jinn attempts to grant its owner 3 wishes, which will allow him to summon his brethren to Earth. Body horror, supernatural horror, and fantasy. Witchcraft 9, Bitter Flesh. Will Spanner, parted from his body, finds a hooker who can hear him. Meanwhile, detectives Lutz and Garner investigate a string of murders seemingly tied to ancient Egypt. Those were the best horror films. Those were all the horror films that came out in 1997. What were some of your favorite horror films that year? Well, for me, obviously, what was it? I Know What You Did Last Summer. And there was another film I can't remember right now that I loved. What was it? See, I just lost it. But in the beginning of the video, I mentioned what a great film. Excuse me. Anyways, but yeah, I Know What You Did Last Summer and Scream 2 were probably like one of my top three favorite. The other movie I already forgot, but it was good. But yeah, Scream 2, I Know What You Did Last Summer. Mimic with Mira Sorvino, I believe. That was a good movie too, about cockroaches. So there are a lot of good horror movies that came out in 1997. Alright, those were all the best horror films that were released that year. Stay tuned for the best horror films of 1998. Any questions, comments, or feedback, leave them below. Thanks for joining me, all new subscribers. Thank you, and I'll see you all in the next video.